Elon Musk's extravagant Dragon capsule upgrade destroyed NASA. Recall that Russian cosmonauts were stuck in orbit following a recent Soyuz spacecraft leak. They lack access to transit back to Earth if an unplanned catastrophe necessitates an emergency evacuation from the ISS, in order to possibly fit another astronaut returning to Earth. A SpaceX Dragon spacecraft was modified in orbit. How is SpaceX pulling off this incredible feat? Elon Musk's and our Russian cosmonaut are both scheduled to visit the International Space Station ISS. Right. How many people are traveling in the Crew Dragon capsule from SpaceX? Is it true that the first Russian to launch aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule will be the only woman among the nation's active crew members? Let's investigate. NASA's Crew 5 mission was carried out by SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft on January 18. The ISS is connected to each vehicle. A coolant leak occurred on the Soyuz, also known as EMS-22, last month following what looked to be a micrometeor or debris contact. Other than in an emergency on February 20th, the spacecraft is not designed for people to return to Earth. Rubio and the Russian cosmonauts Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Petelin make up the EMS-22 crew, and they will return to Earth in an unmanned Soyuz launch from the orbiting lab. In the event that the ISS suffers a serious malfunction prior to the arrival of the next Soyuz, the EMS-22 can still be deployed as a lifeboat. The EMS-22 seats must be lined because it can only hold 2 astronauts, not 3, due to its deteriorated state. On Friday, January 13th, the following notice was posted to the NASA website. Lowering the heat burden on cosmonauts within the EMS-22 spacecraft makes the crew more secure. Crew 5 consists of just 4 astronauts, including Nicole Mann, Josh Gasada, and NASA's. Hence, Prokopyev and Petelin will return to Earth in case of necessity. Nonetheless, Rubio can fit inside the ISS if necessary because Dragon capsules can hold up to 7 passengers. EMS-22 was delivered in September for a 6-month mission. Yet, it is more plausible that Rubio, Prokopyev, and Petelin will spend twice as long in orbit, up till they get back at their home in a few more months. Frank, Dmitry, and Sergei will stay on board the ship. At a press briefing on January 17th, Dina Kontela, manager of NASA's ISS Operations Integration, disclosed this information and predicted that it will most likely take place in late September. She explained that the car would be used to travel back home on that particular day at this hour. Although while we're still determining the exact schedule of that, the ISS wouldn't have enough crew members until a subpar Soyuz could be prepared for launch if Rubio, Prokopyev, and Petelin returned to Earth in March on this new vehicle. The next month will see the launch of the SpaceX Crew 6 mission, which will add 4 more people to the ISS. But a few days after the arrivals, Embark Crew 5 would return to Earth. So let's take a closer look at the Space Crew Dragon. The crew was made by Elon Musk's SpaceX, Reagan's main purpose in flying men to the ISS. It was implemented as part of NASA's effort to switch from utilizing Russian-built Soyuz spacecraft to American firms for space station trips. In addition, tensions have reached an all-time high as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The international space community has decided to stop working with the nation as a result. Human spaceflight, according to Elon Musk, has always been the primary objective of his groundbreaking company, SpaceX. His wish came true. It was the first unmanned aircraft to take off from American soil since the shuttle's demise in 2011 when the Crew Dragon spacecraft launched NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley into orbit in preparation for a rendezvous with the International Space Station. Starting of September 2021, Crew Dragon was utilized for totally private missions that put amateur astronauts into orbit in addition to its regular schedule of flights to the orbiting station. The Dragon 1 spacecraft, which has been launched 20 times on missions, served as the inspiration for Musk's spaceship. At a ceremony in May 2014 at SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California, Musk unveiled the 7-seat Crew Dragon designed for delivering supplies to the ISS. The Apollo command modules, which carried astronauts to the moon from launch until just before re-entry for emergency aborts, shared a similar architecture. The capsule is connected to the trunk, It has heat removal radiators, cargo space, support fins, and solar panels. The stem and capsule together measure about 4 meters in diameter and about 8.1 meters in height. The 16 Draco thrusters used by the crew of the Dragons while in orbit are used to guide the vessel. In the absence of gravity, each Draco is capable of exerting 90 pounds of force. The capsule contains a launch escape system, or LES, which is made up of 8 16,000-pound Super Draco engines. In case something goes wrong during launch, the LS crew's quick work allows Dragon to quickly detach from its rocket. SpaceX engineer John Fetterspiel claims that the firm wants the interior of Dragon to resemble a modern spacecraft. He asserts that one of its most remarkable features is undoubtedly the touch displays within the Dragons. They were developed with excellent usability and user experience in mind. Hurley and Beacon were the first individuals chosen to join the crew of the Dragon. They meticulously prepared the crew capsule with SpaceX for its historic mission in May 2020. The two crew members who had previously been on the shuttle made significant contributions. It was acknowledged early on that it takes some time to become used to touch screens. According to him, the touchscreen could not offer the same degree of authentic tactile sensation. The astronauts do, however, receive a return light on the screen that shows them where they touched and whether the system correctly processed their input. According to Hurley, the touchscreen controls are more than adequate for situations where astronauts may need to take actual physical control of the typically autonomous vehicle. The subsequent docking of spacecraft is one illustration. Beacon said that if you were getting ready and attempting to fly an entry or protest similar to what we could accomplish with the space shuttle, you might not want to use it. One of the topics that has received the most attention in relation to Crew Dragon is astronaut space suits. Modern fitted clothing is an outgrowth of more traditional styles. They continue to have the same main function, which is to keep the crew from losing pressure within the capsule. Chris Drake, manager of spacesuits and crew equipment at SpaceX, claims that the suit is really a minor component of the larger Crew Dragon system to make the trip to and from orbit as comfortable as possible as they prepare to fasten their seat belts. Dragon has 3 different seat sizes with foam that is moldable to the shape of the astronaut's body. The umbilical cord of each astronaut is connected to a connector on the right thigh of their spacesuit. The umbilical supplies the suits air and electrical connections, as well as other life support systems. From Florida's Kennedy Space Center, the crew of the Dragon spacecraft takes off, traveling to orbit atop a specially modified Falcon 9 rocket from SpaceX. A launch pad emergency will cause the launch escape mechanism to operate. The astronauts will return to Earth safely using parachutes. 450 kilometers off the coast of Florida, the Dragon's crew splashes down in the Atlantic Ocean. Once SpaceX has completed its 3rd human-only trip to the International Space Station, they will be taken to safety, and the spacecraft will be retrieved by rescue ships. After that, the spacecraft can be recycled and updated with Falcon 9 launchers. NASA has now granted permission for spacecraft powered by Dragon to transport astronauts. As stated by SpaceX, a variation of the Dragon design for unmanned, non-NASA, non-ISS missions is the Dragon Lab. Without taking into account the ISS, it was created for microgravity research and testing. Despite having 2 flights scheduled for it, one in 2016 and the other in 2018, it has not yet been used. The Dragon Vault 2 capsule, a more severe version, was introduced in May 2014. Is designed to be a manned ship with space for up to 7 crew members. It was always meant for Dragons with human forms. It is made to last for a number of uses before needing renovation. It was also built with safety in mind, and as a result, its unique launch escape system is meant to allow the crew to seek safety at any time, not just in the first few minutes after launch. The escape strategy is not abandoned as swiftly as most others. When anything goes wrong, the Dragon Vault 2 will be propelled by 8 Super Draco thrusters, which are Draco thrusters, with considerable upgrades mounted in pairs on each wall. Those engines would be able to drive the spacecraft away from harm's way if something unfortunate happens. Each of the Super Draco engines which would be used to propel the spaceship with the precision of a helicopter, would be powered by a different engine. It has a maximum thrust capacity of 16,000 pounds of force, or 71 kilonewtons, while landing on Earth or another planet. This would make it possible to travel to planets that are currently only accessible by ocean landings. That's all for today's video. What do you think about Musk's insane Dragon upgrade? Comment below.